with Diego Luna on a number of projects. What would you say this project differs from all the others?
Well, it's huge in our standards. It took us a long time to do. It was very challenging to put together. It was shot with a lot of, struggle and a lot of, adverse situations. And, that's really, it's our biggest film. It's the biggest film of our production company. It's a film that is taking us the longest to make, the most expensive, but hopefully is the one that will bring the most joy and happiness. Why? Because it will make people understand who Cesar Chavez is. And Cesar Chavez should be an example and a guide to every single Latino in this nation. And not only to every single Latino in the nation, but every single person who feels that today, 2014, rights of people are being stepped on.
When you mean stepped on, do you mean the forms and laws here about immigration reform or dreamers or labor unions?
Obviously that, which is the obvious answer. But I mean, there's people from the Philippines who work in sweatshops. There's people from China who are working as slaves. There's people from Mexico that are, being sold as prostitutes across the border. There's a whole bunch. This is a country because it's based on the economics and on the free, on the free trade that is going to always step on someone's shoe. So this film serves to how to make this a more balanced power situation. And Cesar proved to this country that if you organize yourself and you bring the right message, you'll be able to bring a whole industry to its knees. And of course, the biggest injustice of all in today's world here in the States is how can people that have lived here all their lives cannot have access to the most basic right, which is to feel part of a nation.
You spoke a little bit about Chavez. Can we get a more personal feel of what Chavez meant to you growing up and what Chavez and his work means to you now, completing the film, looking at the process, me even looking back at the film?
Well, I was born in Mexico, so I didn't live the American struggle, and I'm not part of say growing up on a Cesar Chavez home. I was brought up in Mexico, and I learned from Cesar Chavez by making a movie about organizing unions in Los Angeles in the 90s. And that's the moment when I realized how powerful it was and how unique and how simple was what they wanted, which is, we come from a country that unions somehow, and let's say the peasant movement and the farm workers movement of Mexico took over the nation. It's called La Revolución. And I come from a country which diluted the very essence of what that revolution was all about and made it into very corrupt and oligarchy and horrible unions that were ruling the nation and destroying precisely the reason why that revolution started. So when I came to Los Angeles and learned about how unions were being formed just to defend basic rights, minimum wage, things that you take for granted in a, industrialized nation as this, that's when you come in touch with a sense of justice and somehow you reflect it on yourself and say, what can I do to improve this life? How can I fight from my own corner and make this, and be part of a bigger change? And I think that that's the transformation into making the film Cesar Chavez.
What would you say, now that the production over, was the hardest part of filming? Whether it be a very touching, sentimental scene or having to deal with certain parts of Cesar Chavez's life?
No, I think making the movie was crazy, man. It was a very complicated process, as I mentioned. But the most proud is that what I feel now is that people are reacting to it. And when you finish the screenings, and we've been doing a lot of screenings recently, and when you see people crying at the end of the film, when you go, we did it. It worked. So far, it's been standing ovations everywhere we go, so hopefully Chicago is not the exception.
Well, thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for the time. Much appreciated. Very looking forward to the show.
Ready?